Hey there, this is Dr. Justin Marchegiani, and today's video is going to be on the truth about adrenal fatigue. So a lot of people talk about adrenal fatigue and the symptoms that adrenal fatigue can cause, such as brain fog, energy issues, obviously fatigue, blood sugar issues, fatigue after meals, inability to regulate pain and inflammation, female hormone issues, PMS, and even menopausal symptoms like hot flash. So let's dig a little bit deeper into the truth about adrenal fatigue. So a lot of people think that the adrenal fatigue just has to do with the adrenal gland. So we have kind of our upstream, downstream hormonal cascade here. Let me break it down for you. We have our hypothalamus up top. That's the first domino that knocks over, that sends the hormonal messages to each gland down the body. We have the pituitary. That's part of the brain. So you can see this circled area right here is the brain. So this is all coming right from the noggin, and that's going down to the end organs, whether it be the adrenals, the thyroid, the gonads, and it's telling those organs to secrete some kind of hormone depending on what the releasing hormone is. So we have TRH, that's going to the pituitary, that's thyroid releasing hormone, and then that stimulates TSH, which is thyroid stimulating hormone, and vice versa with the adrenals, corticotropic releasing hormone, adrenal corticotropic releasing hormone. And just a quick little side note here, most people aren't aware of this, but TSH, this is the prime hormone measured to diagnose thyroid issues, it's not even a thyroid hormone. It's a pituitary hormone. So step one here, if your TSH is high, you definitely have a thyroid issue. The problem is it takes years, if not a decade or so, to become elevated. So it may take you such a long time to figure out you have a thyroid issue that you may be suffering for almost a decade. So don't rely on TSH to say if you have thyroid issues or not. Use more sensitive testing such as T4, T3, and the free fractions of thyroid hormones and thyroid antibodies, because a lot of thyroid diseases or thyroid conditions are actually autoimmune in nature, where the immune system is destroying the thyroid tissue. So just remember that there on a side note. So again, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenals. So we have this cascade that's happening here, and a lot of times it may not be the gland that's fatigued. You may not have a tired gland like you would see in a tired pancreas, like in type 1 diabetes, where the pancreas can't produce insulin and you have to actually inject insulin. So it may not be that simple. Now with some people, they may need adrenal glandular support and adrenal hormone support. Yeah, that's very true, but we want to look higher up, right? Above as below. So we want to look at the upstream hormones that are talking to the glands down below, and what those stressors are that can knock down or interrupt that domino cascade of hormones. So let's break down what's actually being secreted by your adrenals. So we have your adrenals here. These are your adrenal glands. On the outside part of your adrenal glands, really simply, we have the cortex here where cortisol is produced. And we also have aldosterone. This is all on the outside part of the cortex. Really important, cortisol is a glucocorticosteroid. You break it down, glucose meaning it pertains to blood glucose and energy, corticosteroid having to do with stress hormones, pain, inflammation, etc. Really, really important. Aldosterone is a mineral corticoid. What that means is it helps your body reabsorb a lot of the minerals, sodium, potassium, etc. These are important for blood pressure. A lot of people with adrenal fatigue, actually when they stand up fast or they get up from sitting down, they become dizzy and they have low blood pressure or orthostatic hypotension. Why? Well, because the cortex is actually where the aldosterone is secreted too. So if that gets screwed up, we're going to have those symptoms that I just mentioned. We also have the medulla. Think of medulla, think middle. This is the middle part here where we have a couple hormones that come out. We have DHEA, dihydroepiandrosterone. This is a precursor to all of your sex hormones, progesterone, estrogen, etc. This is why so many females have PMS or menopausal symptoms or mood issues, or they just aren't able to repair their body, because this becomes a significant portion of the production of your sex hormones as you get older. And then over here, we have our adrenaline. And our adrenaline is really important because this helps us with stress and when we have to mobilize glucose really fast to move. Also, if we burn up, if our adrenaline goes too high, too long, we can actually take the dopamine, because adrenaline actually comes from dopamine as well, and we can actually drop down dopamine. This is really important because dopamine is a really important input up here. We need dopamine. We need dopamine to signal to our hypothalamus to produce some of these releasing hormones. So dopamine's really, really important. This is one of those compounds that will give us eating disorders, or we'll have problems with the ability of feeling sustained as we eat, so we'll eat and eat and eat and never feel full. Mood issues. This can also affect dopamine's the I love you feeling, so it can affect how you feel in your mood. So we have mood issues or blood sugar issues or energy issues or thyroid issues. Dopamine's an important neurotransmitter to look at. So I think we addressed the adrenal glands pretty thoroughly here. Let's go down a little bit deeper into what affects the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis here. So real quick, these are a couple of the factors that affect things. Okay, we have 1, we have 2, we have 3. So the first thing we're going to look at is we're going to look at infections and inflammation. The reason why this is so important is because this can affect the hypothalamus. Really, really simply. If we have infections, these inflammatory compounds can bind into receptor sites and they can block the hormones from having an effect. So let's break down the adrenal glands for a second. These are our little receptor sites that come off the adrenal glands, that you can see here. Essentially, hormones have to come in and they have to bind into it to bind to the receptor site to have a hormonal effect. You can see that here. Another hormone has to bind in. Now, if we have excessive inflammation, whether it's TNF alpha, whether it's CRP, whether it's various interleukins or cytokines, I'll just put one I. So this guy here will come in, it will block the receptor site, so then when this guy over here wants to come in, it gets blocked. It gets totally rejected. So that's how inflammation can affect. It affects things at the receptor site level, and that can affect the hypothalamus. Too much inflammation, too much stress, that's going to affect hormone output. Also, hormone levels are really important. So for instance, we see it in the thyroid hormone, right? If thyroid goes low, TSH goes up to say, hey, we got a thyroid problem, right? Same thing. If we have high amounts of stress hormone, we're going to see corticotropic releasing hormone drop, and vice versa. It'll go up if it's too low. So really important. Hormone levels are important. So if we're taking too much hormones, right? If we're taking too much, we can actually suppress the gland function because we can turn these guys off. If the hormones are so high, we're going to turn these upstream hormones off. So we kind of want to make sure that we aren't going above, super physiological limits. We want to keep it within the normal physiological range. Number 3, neurotransmitters. So we kind of already alluded to that already with the dopamine, right? We talked about how important dopamine is with thyroid function, right? We need dopamine for thyroid stimulation. We need dopamine for adrenal function as well. And all neurotransmitters, they actually come from protein. They come from amino acids. And this is important because if we have digestive issues, guess what? We're not going to be able to break and absorb our protein down and make amino acids, okay? Because all amino acids, right, especially L-tyrosine, they make up dopamine, right? 5-HTP makes up serotonin. We need good quality amino acids. Essentially, neurotransmitters work like this. We have our postsynaptic or presynaptic neuron and our postsynaptic neuron, just like so. Basically, neurotransmitters, they're the gate. They're the liaison, right? They take the signal from the presynaptic neuron and they carry it to the post. So they essentially become the drawbridge that helps us carry this action potential from here to there. So without these guys here, we don't essentially have the drawbridge needed to carry that action potential from one neuron to the other. So I hope that makes sense there. So we have neurotransmitters, we have amino acids, very, very important. Also, we have stress. Stress will cause us to burn through our neurotransmitters more. stress. And I also mentioned toxins. So toxins, again, they affect this whole entire cascade that I just drew here a second ago. One more time. Right, we have the neurochemicals here like this, and we have the action potential. Toxins, what toxins will do is it will require basically more action potential. You'll need more action potential. So how you're going to get more action potential if you have toxins disrupting this whole cascade is we're going to actually need more neurochemicals. So we'll need more dopamine, more dopamine, more dopamine, increased dopa to get this signal over so we can get more of that action potential, so we have that presynaptic neuron going to that post. So this is really important because if we have toxin stress or we have amino acid or malabsorption, this can throw everything off. So you can see here that a lot of these adrenal issues, they aren't just isolated by the adrenal glands. I think I provided some good support here to show you that there's neurotransmitters involved, there's stress and infections involved, and there's also hormones involved and inflammation affecting the receptor sites. So again, if you have adrenal fatigue, if you have potentially a gut malabsorption, a leaky gut, or you potentially have an infection, feel free, reach out below, grab my info so you can start taking the first steps to address these issues. Again, more of the same equals more of the same, so make a change so you can improve your health. Again, this is Dr. Justin here. Subscribe to get access to more of this info soon. Thanks. Have a great day.